Things just went from bad to worse for Trump with a surprise update today as the Trump campaign continues dealing with the crushing fallout from the disastrous Madison Square Garden rally in New York. It turns out that the comic who called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage, Tony Hinchcliffe, was also planning on referring to Kamala Harris as the C word, but that it got flagged by the campaign, and I'll get to why that's really important in just a moment. According to the Bulwark, campaign staffers had asked all speakers to submit drafts of their speeches ahead of time before they were loaded into the teleprompter, according to the sources. Once the objectionable C word joke was spotted, the sources said, a staffer asked Hinchcliffe to strike it. He complied. And so, think about what that tells you. It says that the Trump campaign vetted the material, meaning they expressly approved of calling Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. They decided that that was okay. If they didn't, they'd have simply struck it from his set like they did with his other joke. The fact that they chose not to is all the proof you need that this was messaging that they were expressly fine with. So why is that bad? Well, first of all, it directly conflicts with the campaign's own response, which is that, quote, this joke does not reflect the views of President Trump or the campaign. Not only is that, quote, stunning because this is a campaign that is wholly predicated on never admitting fault, and so for them to distance themselves from this joke goes to show how bad it really is, but it also proves that they straight up lied. We now know that the campaign was vetting what speakers were saying on that stage, and that they even struck inappropriate material from their sets. They expressly allowed the Puerto Rico joke to stay in, meaning they're trying to have it both ways here. The joke survived vetting, meaning they were okay with it being performed, and yet they're also claiming that the joke that they allowed to be on stage at their own rally somehow doesn't reflect the campaign. You can have it one way or the other, but not both. Of course, the reality is that they were totally fine with the joke because, of course, it reflects the position of the Trump campaign. Donald Trump is a guy who got his start in politics in this country by claiming that Mexicans were raping your wives and selling drugs to your kids. Of course, this guy in his campaign despised the Latino community. What they didn't like, or anticipate, was the fallout. And the fallout here is swift and severe among the Latino population. The same population, by the way, whose support Trump needs if he wants any chance at winning this election. Musical artist phenom Bad Bunny took to Instagram and posted this to his 45 million followers.
I will never forget what Donald Trump did and what he did not do when Puerto Rico needed a caring and a competent leader. He abandoned the island, tried to block aid after back-to-back devastating hurricanes, and offered nothing more than paper towels and insults.
And it wasn't by any means just Bad Bunny. J-Lo posted to her 250 million followers, Ricky Martin posted to his 19 million followers, Luis Fonsi posted to his 16 million followers, including this message: I understand comedy. I'm a big fan of it. I love roast. Trust me, I get it. But this is far from comedy. Not now, not against my island, my people. Hell nah. It's okay to have different views, and I respect those who think different than me, but going down this racist path ain't it. I'm proud to be Puerto Ricano, to be Latino. We are not okay with this constant hate. It's been abundantly clear that these people have no respect for us, and yet they want our vote. Oh yeah, and I purposefully wrote this in English, because yes, we're American too. And let's be clear, while these Latino artists command audiences of hundreds of millions of people, a lot of them are in swing states that Donald Trump will need to win. Just among Puerto Ricans alone, look at these numbers: 450,000 in Pennsylvania, 100,000 in North Carolina, 65,000 in Wisconsin, 50,000 in Michigan, 1.1 million in Florida, 250,000 in Texas, 100,000 in Georgia. And many of those margins are larger than the margins of victory in the 2020 presidential race. Which is to say nothing, by the way, of the millions and millions of other Latinos aside from Puerto Ricans who can probably sympathize with the Puerto Ricans and the language that they've been subjected to. According to Politico, evidence of the backlash was immediate on Monday. A nonpartisan Puerto Rican group drafted a letter urging its members to oppose Trump on Election Day. Other Puerto Rican voters were lighting up on WhatsApp chats with reactions to the vulgar display and raising it in morning conversations at their bodegas. Some are planning to protest Trump's rally Tuesday in Allentown, a majority Latino city with one of the largest Puerto Rican populations in the state. Also, according to Politico, this was just like a gift from the gods, said Victor Martinez, an Allentown resident who owns the Spanish-language radio station La Mega, noting some Puerto Rican voters in the area have been on the fence about voting at all. If we weren't engaged before, we're all paying attention now, Martinez said. He added the morning radio show he hosts was chock full of callers Monday sounding off on the Trump rally comments, including a Puerto Rican Trump supporter who is now telling people not to vote for the former president. And finally, from Politico, Roberto L. Lugo, president of the Pennsylvania chapter of the National Puerto Rican Agenda, said the nonpartisan group will be releasing a letter condemning the comments and urging Pennsylvania Puerto Ricans not to vote for Trump. Lugo, who was born in Puerto Rico and now lives in Philadelphia, said Pennsylvania Puerto Ricans are really disturbed over the comments. I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, I'm independent, Lugo said. But at this point, it's not about political partisan issues, it's about the respect and honor our Puerto Ricans and Latinos deserve as citizens and legal residents of this country. That's the issue. We held Trump and his campaign responsible for this disgraceful act, he added. Not exactly the closing message I'd imagine the Trump campaign was trying to send in the final weeks of this election, to exactly the group of people whose support he'll need to expand his coalition enough to get him over the finish line. I mean, hell, even Republicans started to distance themselves from these comments. Rick Scott took to Twitter writing, "This joke bombed for a reason. It's not funny and it's not true. Puerto Ricans are amazing people and amazing Americans. I've been to the island many times. It's a beautiful place. Everyone should visit. I will always do whatever I can to help any Puerto Rican in Florida or on the island." Republican Congresswoman Maria Salazar wrote, disgusted by Tony Hinchcliffe's racist comment calling Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. "This rhetoric does not reflect GOP values. Puerto Rico sent 48,000 soldiers to Vietnam with over 345 Purple Hearts awarded. This bravery deserves respect. Educate yourself." And of course, Democrats didn't shy away either. Here's AOC.
Donald Trump and that entire cadre of people up on that stage, Stephen Miller, etc., do not respect the law of the United States of America. And they either want to win this election or they are using rhetoric of taking it by force. That is what they mean, and that's what they're doing when they are inciting violence and hatred against Latinos, against Black Americans, against Americans who don't have children, you have J.D. Vance literally talking about watering down people's right to vote, depending on if they can viably carry a child or not. We have to understand how unhinged this campaign has gotten, and the only reason that the rhetoric has gotten this far is precisely because they are trying to prime the kind of froth that led up to the January 6th attack on the Capitol. And so it's very important that we connect those dots, and right now the campaign is scrambling, and they're trying to blame this rhetoric on a so-called comedian. This is not a comedian. This is the Trump campaign. They invited this rhetoric on their stage for a reason. It was a chorus of speakers on that campaign for a reason. It was vetted, and they knew exactly who was going to say what before they went on.
Even Kamala's campaign wasted no time posting this video today.
A floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico.
I will never forget what Donald Trump did. He abandoned the island and offered nothing more than paper towels and insults. Puerto Ricans deserve better. As president, I will always fight for you and your families, and together we can chart a new way forward.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
So look, I don't want to speak out of turn here, but my message for Latinos is this. Trump doesn't have an ounce of respect for you. He rose to power calling you rapists and drug dealers, and now he's given the green light for Puerto Rico to be called trash on the literal biggest stage in America, Madison Square Garden. If he can't be bothered to show you any respect when he needs something from you, do you really think he'll govern for you when he doesn't? Politics aside, this is a person who is showing you his disdain for you and your culture and your community. Do not reward a guy who hates you by giving him exactly what he's looking for. Before you go, just a quick note, if you'd like to see more of my content, which is always free of advertising, sponsorships, and paywalls, please make sure to subscribe to this channel using the subscribe button right here on this screen. And if you'd like to support my work even further, you can grab a copy of my instant #1 New York Times selling book, Shameless, available for sale right now. That link is also on this screen. Thanks so much for watching.